Good morning. Yeah, I'm in hospital. I didn't fall off my bike or anything. I don't know if this is going to be oversharing, but I'm kind of bored sitting in my hospital room, so I thought I'd talk about it because I think it's a pretty relevant issue for a lot of cyclists, particularly older cyclists, which I definitely fall into. And that's fibrillation, tachycardia, high heart rate, unnaturally high heart rate, pathologically unnaturally high heart rate. Um, so I've had this condition pretty much my whole cycling career. I think I first experienced it when I was 25. For those who know, you know. For those who don't, it's basically your electrical wiring in your heart just goes crazy. So typically what would happen with me is, but not always, but typically put in a big effort. So you're in a race, you're doing repeated efforts at very high heart rate. So back then my max would have been around 200. And then all of a sudden, you take a break during the race, and you feel this sort of, almost like your heartbeat would skip, and then it would trigger this, for me, supraventricular tachycardia, which is basically your heart is not sending signals correctly, and it just sort of, the blood doesn't really flow properly through the ventricles and just sort of like this. And if you look at your heart rate monitor, mine would be like 233, just fucking crazy number. And you feel like you're gonna die, like you think you're having a heart attack, right? It's very, very disconcerting. And, back then in the 90s, I had no idea what it was, and, we didn't have the internet. And so back then, I was racing full time, as Cat 1, trying to get pro, but, talent. But, I was very, very skinny, training lots, not eating a lot. And one night I went out with some friends, just to the pub, and I think I had one sip of a beer, and I passed out. And so I got taken to the hospital. My heart rate was erratic, very high, very low. Anyway, I ended up seeing a heart specialist, and he thought he knew what the condition was. This was the year 2000, right? So medical science, it wasn't, the dark ages, but definitely, the options they had to treat this condition were limited. And the biggest problem he had was he suspected what it was, but unless they can catch it in the act, they couldn't really do anything about it. And I wore, one of those belts, where you tracks your heart rate for 24 hours, and went in and got, ultrasound or different scans, and did a RAM test, and all this stuff. And for me, it's hard to trigger. I mean, I really have to be under a lot of stress, a lot of load. Typically, only racing gives me that kind of load. So I would never really got it diagnosed. What he did say to me at the time is he thought it was this type of tachycardia called supraventricular tachycardia, SVT, which is, I think is a fairly common type, and fortunately very benign, but unfortunately doesn't feel very benign. Anyway, so that was the year 2000. For a bunch of reasons, I kind of quit cycling. I was 31 years old, wasn't progressing, was very, one of those, it's that sort of weird irony of being super fit, so fit that you're sick. I was super skinny, not eating, mentally not really where I should be, and I just stopped progressing, and I need to get on with my life and get a job and stuff. So I quit cycling, but largely driven by this condition. It was a significant factor. Just scared the hell out of me. I didn't like the feeling of it. You feel, like I said, you're gonna die. And yeah, it took me a good couple years to sort of get back to normal. I went on beta blockers, and just sort of didn't feel myself for a couple of years. Always felt anxious and uncomfortable. I wouldn't like to be in places like flying or on buses, places where I couldn't just immediately get away. So the condition does feel like an anxiety attack, and I think it actually led to sort of those kind of psychological reaction, right? So because I felt like I was having an anxiety attack, maybe I was starting having anxiety attacks. So eventually I got better. I gained weight, stopped cycling, and I didn't ride a bike from pretty much 17 years, right? So I started riding again, started picking up cycling again in 2017, and in 2018 I kind of started training again. I made this promise to myself not to take it so fucking seriously this time, and just do it for fun. And we're cyclists, we're bike racers, we take it way more seriously than we should. So I always have to keep that balance of, not getting too obsessed. I mean, I'm an old man, I'm doing this for fitness because I got quite fat when I quit racing. And also just, the fun of it, right? And just keep it fun. Anyway, of course, I kind of I hadn't forgotten, but I hadn't had an episode of SVT for, at that point, 17 years, right? So I went to a race in the United States, stage race. I tacked a bunch of times and then was off the front, solo. I'm not really going anywhere, but hey, I'm back. And I had an episode. I was like, fuck, right? Just like, boom, just see your fucking heart rate monitor, boom, 200. And so I had to sit up. With me, it usually resets pretty quickly, especially if I immediately stop pedaling. It can reset as quickly as a minute. If I don't do that, then sometimes it'll hang around for like 20 minutes, and that's not nice. So anyway, I sat up, tried to ride with the pack, but it makes you weak, and I just was like so fucking terrified that I got this again. So I basically just rolled it in. So ruined my weekend, ruined that stage race. Not like I was gonna win it, but wasn't in it anymore after that. And then I started, getting these episodes again, not that frequently, but enough to be annoying, right? So 5, 6, 7 times a year. And so last year, I got it twice in races. 2 races in a row I had to drop out, and it really fucking pissed me off because one race actually felt amazing, and I'm like, I thought I could have won that race. And so what I did was I bought this little, I went online and, did some research, and I bought this little EKG device. I'll post a link to what it is. The brand name is Kardia something. I'll post it in the notes. But yeah, I went online, and some guy had the exact same thing as me, same problem, could never catch it in the act, so it's very hard to diagnose, and the doctors want to see the EKG, and of course it's the catch-22 that it can't trigger it, so they can't do anything about it, so you can't fix it. But I bought this little device, and it's medical quality standard. So what I had to do then was just wait for an episode. So about a month, maybe probably about 5 weeks ago, I was doing a Swift race. Boom, got the episode. Jumped off the bike, loaded up the app, put the EKG device on my leg, put my 2 fingers on each electrode, and it does an EKG scan, and I caught that in the act. So then I booked an appointment with a heart specialist, took it in, said, yep, looks like SVT to us, and had a few more tests like ultrasound, an MRI. And that's the other thing with us cyclists. We all have what they call athlete's heart, which is just like, I think the left ventricle is large. And unfortunately for doctors, when they see that, they they think you got heart disease, right? So yeah, they have to they're always freaked out when they see a big heart. But the athlete's heart is a well-known artifact of endurance athletes. So most doctors are, attuned to it now, but because I guess they just see a bunch of fucking old people with bad hearts, then it looks the same. They're like, oh, geez, you got heart disease. So, they want to do a million blood tests and check your blood pressure and, think you're sick. And I'm like, no, I'm just super fucking healthy. Anyway, so long story short, I got booked in with a heart specialist. It took me early, which is great. I only had to wait 2 weeks, which is unreal because I have a friend in Canada. He had to wait a year, and he has a different type of fibrillation than me, and his is way worse because he just can get it just sitting around, and it's not nice at all. But he had to wait a year for an appointment with the surgeon. So I got in 2 weeks. I had the procedure yesterday. So basically, I'm not a medical doctor, and I don't want to emphasize this part too much, but basically they stick a catheter up your groin, one of the arteries, veins, whatever it is, goes into your heart, and then they basically just light you up, right? Like they try and trigger the condition, see which nerve is causing the problem, because it's usually, so in my case it was congenital, so it was like from birth, right? Just a defect, and so they just basically they just fucking fry it, right? He told me, like, he's just like, yeah, I was just burning it. Usually takes 2 minutes, but with you it was for 3, and it's close to this cluster of nerves, so I had to be careful. I'm like, geez, okay. But yeah, they basically, that's ablation, right? Like they literally delete or destroy. They create a scar tissue on your heart where that rogue nerve is triggering, the rogue electrical signal. And yeah, so went under, took about 3 hours. All good, right? Like, so stayed at the hospital last night. I'll be staying here again tonight. Talked to the doctor yesterday. He's like, yeah, I think I got it. I think you're probably, I would say 95% sure you're cured. Have to go on blood thinners for a couple days, but he says, because blood thinners aren't great for, cyclists, because, if you fall down, can bleed internally, but he's like, I'll just keep you on for a couple days, and, I think you're good to go. So voila, condition hopefully solved. So I just wanted to, share my story about this, because if you do have that condition, you don't have to live with it. You can definitely get it cured. There's also drugs that they can give you, but this is, I think they're called calcium channel blockers. But this is basically, even though I'm staying overnight, it's basically day surgery, right? I'm not in pain. I've got a bit of a bruise on my groin where they did the catheter insertion, but just, no painkillers, right? Like, I'm totally fine, walking around. Says I'll be back on the bike within a week, right? So yeah, I'm so fucking stoked, right? Like, this is something that's been with me for 25 fucking years, and to think I can show up a bike race and light up the caffeine, and like, because that's the other thing, got to be careful with the stimulants and being hydrated and all that, because all those things can help trigger it, right? So yeah, I'm just so stoked that, like, I can show up at a race, and because last year I was actually showing up at races and kind of holding back because I'm just like, don't want to trigger it, right? So yeah, I mean, if it's done, I mean, fucking amazing, right? Like, it just super stoked. So like I said, if you guys, have experienced this and you're not really sure what it is or how to deal with it, really it's something that, medical science can actually fix these days, and because that wasn't available to me, like, 25 years ago or whatever. And yeah, I mean, I just wish I had done it sooner, right? So yeah, get yourself one of those little devices. Like I said, I'll post the one I had. There's a few on the market. They're about $130, money well spent, right? And we'll give you an EKG, so you have an episode. Just put it in your back pocket if you go riding, and pull it out. Fucking, it's a 30-second read, and then you've got a medical grade EKG that you can give to your doctor, and then he can say, oh yeah, that's this. We can do something about that. All right, cool. So be off the bike for a week or so, but gonna start training hard and looking forward to fucking never having this thing again. So cheers. Thanks for watching.